Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Angie Jones, and yes, I work at Block on this fantastic open source agent called Goose. Got a little echo? Oh, okay. Yeah, so Goose is an open source AI agent. It's built as an MCP client. How many people are familiar with MCP? Okay. And so MCP is an open standard that essentially allows agents to connect to tools to be able to actually do stuff versus just kind of telling you how to do stuff. So in this workshop, it's designed to be interactive where you vibe code yourself. However, if you would prefer not to, that's totally okay as well. You can just kind of sit and watch, and we'll kind of go through the stuff. So you pick your own adventure if you want to vibe code or if you just kind of want to hang out, all right? Cool? All right. Y'all have to liven up for me though. All right? Okay, so here is the URL. Does everyone have it? You're going to need this URL. So this is your, and for those online, it's agents-workshop. And this will be your companion for today. So everything that you need is in that guide, okay? All right, we ready? Okay. So I'm going to go over to the guide. And we're just going to work from this guide, okay? So let me make it bigger. All right. So first of all, the objective today. So what we're going to do is vibe code to create a new product, right? And this product is going to be called AI Brief Me. So the way it works is we'll have an app that you can basically put any topic into and then say, hey, just brief me on this topic. And it'll give you a couple of summary bullet points, maybe a graph, maybe a code snippet, depending on the topic. So we're using AI to build it, and it'll also have AI embedded in the product itself to have, some features there as well, okay? So what we're going to do is use Goose to spin up a team of agents that are going to work on this together. So Goose has a lot of functionality in it. It's very similar to a lot of the agents out there, but it goes a lot further as well. So yes, it can vibe code, but it also can do things like orchestrate multiple agents. It's also LLM agnostic, so you can bring whatever models you want. And I'll show you, hopefully some of you have already done this, but I'll show you where you can basically get an API key. So your vibing is on me today, okay? And then whatever you have left, take that key home. You can continue vibe coding, build your next app. Remember me when you're famous though, all right? Okay, so for this app, we're gonna do 7 sub-agents. We're going to do a planner who's going to define what the product is and what an MVP looks like. What's the scope of this, right? We're going to tell it, look, we only got like an hour, so don't go crazy. This is not an 8-week sprint. This is what can we do in an hour. We'll have a project manager that's going to coordinate the task, kind of break it down, what needs to be done and who should be doing it. We'll have an architect that'll set up how this should be designed. And then we'll have our front end and our back end devs that will work in parallel to build the app. And then we'll have a QA come through after it's all built, write some unit tests and tell us what's wrong with it. Heads up, something will be wrong with it, right? Because we're vibe coding. Y'all, don't take your vibe coded app to production. Did you see the, what's the name of the app? T something something? What's it called? T. Yeah, #1 app. Riding on the clouds until you're not, right? And so we'll have a QA that actually lets us know, is this production ready? Probably not, but it'll let us know what we need to do to get there. And then we'll also have a tech writer to document some stuff as well. Sound good? All right, so what Goose is gonna do is orchestrate all of this. Today, we're gonna use Goose as sub-agents as well, but Goose is highly flexible. Block is the company that created Goose. Block is a fintech company, right? And so this is not our lane. We just have brilliant engineers who build stuff like this. And so we open source this for developers to enjoy, okay? Which means we can be really unopinionated about a lot of things. Bring your own LLM, right? You want to use Claude CLI or Gemini CLI as a sub-agent? Sure, why not? We allow all of that in this framework, okay? So it's really powerful and extendable. Okay, so each of those roles will be powered by a sub-agent, and what you're going to do is kind of write the prompts that tell that agent what its responsibility is and what it should do, okay? But little heads up, I'm going to skip down to the task section. So when you write this stuff, for each one of these, I've written out what the task is. You can prompt this yourself, but I also have a little cheat sheet, so if you're getting stuck or you feel like, I don't know, I'm missing something here, then you can just take a little peek at the cheat sheet and there's a prompt for you there. So if you just want to copy all the prompts, that's cool too. We'll never know, okay? All right, so to install and configure, how many people have not already installed but you want to? Okay, so we'll give a little time for this. So under the install and configure, you're going to install Goose. Goose does run locally. So it's a local agent. It's not hooked up to the cloud. Again, you bring whatever LLM you want. So some people who like to go totally local use things like Olama, and now you have a full offline experience. You can code on the plane, on the train, or whatever. But if you want a more high-performant model, you can use all of them. You can use Claude models, you can use OpenAI models, you can use Gemini, whatever you want, you do that. Today, the API key that I'm gifting you is with Open Router, meaning there's a large selection of models you can choose from. So choose whatever you want, but I do recommend Claude Sonnet 4 because it was born to code, okay? So if you go to this link, and then go under the install and configure number 2, where it says get the LLM API key. Just click that link and it'll let you put in your email address. When you get that, go ahead and download it, okay? Don't just copy and paste it because you won't spend all the money that I put on there for you. That means I want you to take it home and continue coding on me. When you make your app, think, Angie, wow. That girl is something else. Okay, for those of you who have already installed and configured, there's also another step. So the sub-agents feature, we rolled this out pretty recently within the last couple of weeks. So it's still considered experimental, right? And so you're going to need to turn on that feature flag to enable this. And you can do that right inside of Goose if you want to, or you can do it manually. I've put the file name there if you want to just add it there yourself, but you can just tell Goose to append that line to your config file. So look at Goose, already working for you. Yes? I have a question. How do you define sub-agents? Oh, good question. How do you define sub-agents? Okay, so Goose itself is an agent, right? We all know what agents are, yes? All right. So a sub-agent would be an agent that's basically spinning off or talking to another agent, like controlling them, if you will. So there's like multi-agent where maybe you don't control that agent, but you need to communicate. Like say you had an agent and I had an agent and they just needed to communicate so that they could do something for us. That's one thing, but a sub-agent is where the main agent spins off these other agents to do a task. So it's orchestrating everything. It says, look, I have this big project to do. I'm going to make an agent that does this, one that does that, one that does that. So are they predefined or agents get created dynamically? They're getting created dynamically. We're going to create them on the fly. Now, we do have a feature, since you asked, we have a feature that's called recipes, and recipes are a way to basically repeat something or share something. So if there was an agent that you wanted to keep, say for example, like I need a math tutor agent, right? You can make that into a recipe and it persists. That way that you can use that same agent later if you wanted to. But the ones we're doing today, they're getting spun up and then they're getting spun down. We'll never hear from them again. Any other questions? Okay, how are we? Did we install Goose? Anybody didn't yet? Still trying? Okay. Got your API key? All right. And did you turn your alpha features on? Anybody did not? Sometimes that happens. Close Goose, reopen it, and redo the thing. I'm not sure why that happens, but I have seen that before. Everybody good? Everybody have the alpha feature on? All right. You all are doing amazing. So we have about 50 minutes to whip up this project. Do you also have Node installed? Anybody don't? Or you don't know if you do or don't? Okay. So the way you check is by node -- version. If you get a version back, you know you have it installed. If you don't get a version back, then you'll need to go to Node.js and install Node. The reason we need Node is for our project, so we're actually going to kind of run a local server for our project, okay? Also, you'll need it for one of the optional MCP servers. So I want to show you a little bit in Goose. Let's do the Workspace setup. So the first thing that I recommend, listen to me, make another folder. You don't want Goose just throwing folders in your other folder, right? So make a new directory, and this will be Goose's playground, okay? So the way that you do that is at the bottom here. Let me make this bigger. So at the bottom here, I have this little folder icon. You click that and you can direct it to whatever folder you want. I again recommend you make a new one and then do this step, okay? I'm gonna actually, all right. The other thing is the mode. So agents work in various modes. There's autonomous, which means have at it. Do whatever you want. Don't ask me for permission. Go wild. I like that mode. All right. There's also manual mode. That means before you take any actions, you must ask me first. Okay. So if you look, Goose, I don't know you like that. Let's see. You can go in like a manual mode, but it's going to be slower, right? Because you have to approve everything. And then there's smart mode, where it says, you can read all you want, but if you do anything that's edit, whether that be write, delete, anything like that, then ask me, okay? And then chat is when you just want to have a conversation. You're not looking to take any actions. Maybe it's just a brainstorming session or something like that, all right? We're good? Okay, the other thing is extensions. So extensions in Goose ecosystem, we call extensions, but they're basically just MCP servers. So you can connect any MCP server you want to Goose. There's over 5,000 of them out there. This gives Goose additional capabilities. For example, I have a bunch of stuff, Airtable, Asana, I have Blender if I want to do 3D modeling, I have Canva if I want to make pictures. I have all sorts of things, the Google Workspace, so it can do things on my calendar. You can make this agent into whatever you want. For this workshop, there's one that we definitely need. It's default, it's already built in, it's called the developer. The developer MCP server can do things like run commands, it can code, it can create files, and that sort of thing. Computer controller is a nice one. This one can open browsers and take screenshots. You might not need that one for this one, but I just keep it on. And then the other one I would recommend, and I have a link to it in that doc, is the Goose Docs. So as you're working and you're prompting and maybe something is not working and you want to ask Goose, hey Goose, how do you do such and such? it can basically look at its own docs and reflect on its own behavior. So then it knows, okay, this is how I need to make a certain call, or this is how sub-agents work, or whatever. So it will be able to answer your questions, all right? Okay, so let's go back to our first task. And where's my browser? All right, what we want to do is start on the first task. So our first one is the planner. So you're going to have the planner define the product vision in the scope, and the planner should decide what the app is, what it's for, what problems it solves, and the core features of the MVP, all right? So the output should be a product definition, not code, just a file, if you will. I recommend having it write this out to a file so that other agents can read that file and they know what to do. So something like a plan.md, for example. Agents love Markdown. So anything that you write that's like textual, you should probably make it a Markdown file. So we have a plan in place. Now we want to summon up a project manager. And so this project manager is going to break down the product or the project into tasks, right? And so they should define like which roles are needed. Do we need a front end? Do we need a back end? How do we list specific tasks and then assign them to folks? And also indicate which of these tasks can be done in parallel versus which ones need to be sequential, for example, right? So you'll take a few minutes. I do recommend that you have the project manager write to a file as well. Not the same file, but maybe like projectplan.md or something like that, okay? All right. And you can do this either in the same session that you're already in. You can actually continue the conversation. That way Goose has context. If you were to make a new session, Goose would not have context, but you have that plan document that the planner made. So you can say, hey, just go look at that plan and do something. But I would just do it all in one session. Exception would be when we're ready to start the server at the end. You can tell Goose to start the server, and he will start the server, but what's going to happen? He's never coming back to you, right? Because he's off in the server land somewhere, and so he didn't get it returned back to the terminal. So that's the only time I say, like, okay, Goose, you don't run those. I'll run servers, and you run everything else. Yeah. So this little icon in the upper right corner makes a new chat. So you can have two chats going at the same time. They're not chatting together, though. But funny story, the other day, I was just curious. So Goose comes as both a desktop as well as a CLI. You can use either one, and they work the same. I just had this like funny thought, like what if I had Goose desktop go talk to Goose CLI? And so I just told him, like, go have a conversation. I didn't say about what or anything. I just said, go have a conversation with Goose CLI. And it came back and it was like, oh, I had this fascinating conversation. I basically met myself. And I wrote a blog post if you're interested. Okay, so plan.md. Here's what, I don't want y'all to see everything. Here's what my plan looks like. We have some goals. We have the core MVP features. These are the must-haves. We have the technical stack. I love that it said keep it simple. So we're doing vanilla JS. I didn't specify, right? So if I wanted to, I could say, okay, I want React or whatever, but I just left it up to the agents. Backend, we got Python. I don't want this. Or similar, okay. And then it even defined the roles. Great. Very nice. Even told me what's not in scope, in case I want to come back later and keep vibing, you know? All right. Any questions so far? Did you get your next project plan? Anybody have their project plan already? All right. Anybody still working on their project plan? A few folks. Okay, so while you work, we'll just look at that one. Okay. So here is my project board. It's basically saying, okay, the architect is going to start first. I could really take this plan and say, all right, Goose, like go just execute the plan. You spin up agents however you see fit, but I need to fill time today. So we're going to take it step by step so that you all understand like what's actually happening. But I love this. It's like, yeah, make a design contract. That's great. An API contract. Even gives it time limits. Like, look, don't take more than this here. Love it. All right, how are we looking? We okay? All right, so the next agent that you're going to spin up, and this will be your last standalone agent. After that, we're going to get into where they start collaborating, they're parallel at the same time, all right? For the architect, you're going to create an architect agent. You're going to have it plan the technical setup. Again, it's not writing the code yet, but it should do something like choose the stack. This is where your architect is going to make that, that decision. And then have it also describe what's the folder structure so that the agents that come after it know where things are, and then flag anything that will need to be installed, okay? So take about 5 minutes there, and you have your cheat sheet. Any questions I can answer? Yeah.
In the extensions, there are a bunch of 5,000 MCP servers. Why do you have to choose any? Why can't it just depending on the need?
Ah, okay. So the question was, there's 5,000 MCP servers. Why do I have to look through them and choose, right? And so the answer to this is that we are in the very early days of MCP. And so it's kind of like the Wild Wild West is very much so community-led, and everybody's just making MCP servers, and there's not a really sophisticated way to do this. However, the project is working on a registry that will be a service that agents like Goose could then call to that service and say, hey, my friend wants to make XYZ, or he wants me to like look at his email. I don't have an MCP server for email, so I can make a call to this official registry and figure out which MCP server you would need, and then install it for you, and then do your task. So that effort is being worked on. Everything is really kind of open ecosystem, which I love. So the registry is being worked on by GitHub, Post MCP, which has a standalone registry right now, and Block, my company. So they're working together to create this registry service. So hopefully that very question you asked will have a different answer in the next couple of months. Yeah. 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 So the question was, okay, we're like have a gazillion vibe coding platforms right now, right? How do I measure which one of these are better for my needs? Like, is there a benchmark test or something like that, right? There is something that's called like terminal benchmark that rates the agents, and it gives them a series of tests to do and then ranks them. Goose is pretty up there. I don't remember what number. I try not to pay that close attention to those sorts of things, but we made the list. But it still depends on your task. So like what kind of tasks are they giving it, and does that mirror the type of work that you do, right? And so for me, I actually made my own set of tests. So anytime that I want to like evaluate a model, for example, I have like 3 tests that I run to see like, does this model perform well with an agent doing these tests? And so I would recommend you, so that it's personal to you, do something like that. So if you're like, let's say you're looking at 4 or 5 different agents, right? If you have a specific task, use the same model across all, because the model really does matter. But if you use the same model across all of them for something that resembles the type of work that you do, you should be able to clearly see, okay, this one performs better. But also look at things like user experience and stuff as well. Do I enjoy working in this platform? Like if you're a CLI person, is it in that, or are you a desktop person, or whatever, you know? Also, the support for MCP is really important. So I would say like any agent that's not doing that is kind of behind. This has become the de facto standard for agent interactions. All right, yes?
Are there any suggested models to use when you're doing local code, like when you're running it on a
Oh yeah, Quinn 3. Quinn 3 is it. So there was a video, you might can look it up when you get home on YouTube. It just came out yesterday, just a regular guy. I don't know, he might be a YouTube famous guy. I don't know all the YouTube famous people. But he made a video with Goose in Quinn 3, and he had it make this like vision motion type of app. All of the Olama models have been disappointing with agents up until this point, and so seeing that was quite impressive. But you still may need to do some tweaks like on the temperature of the model and stuff like that to really get it performant. All right, any other questions? How did your architect do? Still working? As much as your computer can handle. So I had like 7 running at one time, and it was able to do all the things, but my battery, even though it was plugged in, was still going in the opposite direction. So it's about the system and how much you can actually do. All right, I think this is from my guy. I got an API spec here. Love this, gave me a base URL, told me the endpoints. Oh, I'm talking your language, Moot. All right. So it told me like how everything, how the body should go and everything. Okay, I like this a lot. All right, so let's move on to our next agent. We're gonna do some coding now. So we want a front-end developer and we want a back-end developer, and we want them to work at the same time. We can do this because our architect was wise enough to make that API contract. So that means now we can split up the work, right? We're not relying on back end to make the thing before front end can start working. So what you're gonna tell Goose, there's keywords you can use, things like parallel or simultaneously, like these words tell Goose, oh, they want 2 agents at once, or 3, or whatever it is you wanna do. So you're gonna have Goose spin up 2 developer sub-agents in parallel, and you're gonna tell it to build that core app. One needs to handle an express server, or if you want something different, do you, but this is what I recommend. Also that developer should handle that back-end knowledge, and then you'll have another one that builds out the UI and then wires it to the back end, okay? Again, Goose is gonna execute both of these agents at the same time so that you speed up your development, all right? I got a cheat prompt there if you need it. Who's been using the cheat prompts? Oh, okay. They're like, we are not even ashamed. I'm not mad at that. Okay. All right. So take a couple of minutes and watch your agents work. How many of you are familiar with context windows? All right, so every model has what's called a context window. And let's go to one of my old ones. Okay, let's take this one. So if let's say that I ran out of my context window, meaning the way I like to describe this, a context window is basically like a sheet of paper that your agent works on or your model works on. So as you all are having conversations, things are being written down. When you get to the last line of that sheet, what do you need to do? Flip over to the next page to continue writing. That's how they work. When they flip over to the next page, some of the stuff that's on the old page, I don't quite remember. It's not in front of me, right? So that's context windows. So in Goose, if you reach the limit, or right before you reach the limit, it'll give you a little warning like, yo, you're about to run out of space. There's a way that you can handle it. One, if you get all the way to the max, it'll summarize your conversation for you. If not, you can always do it yourself. Even if you're not at the max, you just say, I want to take the summary because I want to go to a new chat and start over, right? And so you can press this little button. It's really small. Okay, this little button right here that says summarize conversation. You will summarize this. It'll give you like the highlights, and then you can take that over to a new session. So someone has already hit their context window. If you run into that, you know what to do now, all right? Okay. Interaction with who? You could, actually. You don't need it, but you could. Let's say, so Goose's context is only within the chat session. So if I start a new chat session, Goose has no recollection of anything we discussed in the other one. So if I want to go to a new topic and say, hey, look, now I want to talk about this, but here's the context, this would be great to get the summary and bring it over.
But if you generate a file, right, and the file is also part of the context window.
It's not a file, it's like Markdown, but yes, that summary also becomes part of the context on your new sheet of paper. So now you've basically taken up a couple of lines of the new session. Yeah. Yeah.
How does the Goose work in the brown field?
In the what?
In the brown field, so when you're editing.
Like Goose itself, a session? Yes. Okay, so Goose is available as desktop and CLI. There's no cloud instance of it, but if you're a CLI user and you don't want the desktop, but you do want a visual, there's a CLI command that's called Goose Web. If you say Goose Web, it'll open a browser, but everything is still local. So it's just pointing to like a local session on your computer. It's not connecting to the internet. But then you can interact with an interface, essentially. But you won't have all of these cute little menu items. It'll just be a chat window.
I was asking about if you have already existing a project and you want to edit it, how would be able to work on that like cloud?
Oh, yeah. Like in an IDE or something? Yeah. So there's one I can just like open Visual Studio Code, or I can open IntelliJ. And you know there's a terminal in your thing. So I would use the CLI, Goose CLI in the terminal to work with that. But there's also like extensions like JetBrains as well as VS Code. Extensions I can use to like really get into the project level of it all. I would say like I rarely use Goose in my editor, only like if I'm like stuck with debugging or something like that. I like to use Goose for other development tasks, like set up my environment, right? Like especially complex things where I need like containers and all of this stuff. Like it's really great at that. And that way I'm in my IDE. I don't want you in my IDE. We both don't need to be in my IDE, you know? Any other questions? Did your developers finish? Oh, yeah. So your developers are I meant to tell you that. Your developers are going to take a little bit of time. But Goose did give it, or your project manager actually gave it a time limit and said, if you don't come back in such and such time, we're going to just kill you. That didn't come out how I wanted it. But essentially, just let it cook, and then it'll stop itself if it doesn't come back. Yeah. Right. There's no plans to put Goose in the cloud. There's a MCP server for that. So let me take you here. So if you want to know like what all Goose can do, go to this MCP thing at the top, and then there's the, oh, is it not there? Maybe it's a tutorial. Tutorials. Or maybe it's not published. All right, there's a pull request that's not merged yet, where someone is using a Jupyter Notebook MCP server with Goose. I don't know how it works, so I can't tell you like the ins and outs of it, but I know that it's possible. Yeah. Also, we use, and we're going to do that, actually your developer agents right this moment are using a headless Goose for the LLM part. So within our app, what we want to happen is a user asks a question, it pulls news, but then it also summarizes that. The summary part is coming from the LLM. And so I didn't tell you like go get an OpenAI, API key or anything like that. Instead, your developers are using headless Goose, which is the CLI version. You can pass the arguments to say, I want you to do this in quiet mode. You know, I need you to not make a session. You know, I just want you to do the work. We don't need to have a conversation about it. So people take headless Goose and they put that in like their CI/CD pipelines to do stuff like PR reviews or any other actions you might want to take in your repo. All right, how are we doing? Is your app, anybody app ready? It takes a little while. We'll let it cook. Y'all want to see mine while we wait? All right, this is mine. Okay, so mine you didn't even look at the project. I'm teasing. All right. So this is mine, and you can ask it anything. I asked it, like, can you give me the growth of MCP over the last year? And then I said, generate briefing. And it came back. It gave me a couple of bullet points. And it also gave me this nice little code example so that I can really understand how do I implement a MCP server. So that's basically the app, right? If I were to iterate on this further, I would probably have it like save my sessions so that I can come back to them later and things like that. All right? And then if I want to look at the code, so here's all my code that Goose made. I guess this is it. Oh, this is probably the website. Here's my server. Let's open this in VS Code. All right. So here's my server that it made. It's using Express. So you can like actually see the code. You can come in here. You can edit it yourself. What I like to do, especially for code that I vibe coded, is use like another AI to review the code, like review that dude's work, and then I'll look at it. So I wanted to kind of get all of the kinks out before I, use my precious human time on it. Okay, here is the headless Goose. So this is running headless Goose, and basically these are the parameters. Also look how it said max turn. So it's like, don't get out here and get lost. You only get one shot at this. Like, try it out, and if it doesn't work, just quit. All right. Anybody else got their app? Yes? Yes. Can I look at it? And you never know what you're going to get. Like, my app probably looks totally different than yours, right? That red dot means you're about to run out of space. That's the one I was telling you, so you might want to summarize. All right, we're ready for our last two agents to finish it off. So you have a product. Technically, this is where most of the vibe coders stop, right? But I want to show you like some good practices here. So, what we want to do is to also to test it and to write some documentation. So if we want to come back to this project, again, Goose won't have context of anything we've done. So we can say, hey, Goose, read the README so that you understand how the project works. And now I want to add a new feature. Like maybe I want to add where you persist the sessions and I come back to it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right now. We're not going to do it because we don't have time, but we could, like that would be your homework assignment if you want homework. And I might do this myself. What I want when I look at that app, the conversations are not persisted. So I want them to be stored in a database so that I can come back to them later. So I would say, okay, now I want to add this feature. I can point Goose to the project file as well as this README, and it should be able to just add it, right? Even without sub-agents, okay? But your last task is you're gonna have two sub-agents, the tech writer, because we only got 7 minutes, so we gotta get it done. So we're gonna have them both work at the same time. The tech writer is gonna write the documentation that we'll need so that we can take this with us. And then you're gonna have a QA person write some unit tests, not a person, an agent. A QA agent write some unit tests for you and also give you a report. That report is actually great because it's humbling, right? It says, all right, yeah, you got a working product that you vibe coded, you feel real good about it, you think you're about to ship this to the App Store, not so fast. Here's some considerations, all right? So take the next 5 minutes and get your tests and your docs written. Be sure, if you are writing your own prompt, we put this in the hints, but say it again. Tell the Goose to tell that tester not to start the server, okay? Because the tester will, this happened to me when I was like testing the workshop, the tester would never come back. And I'm like, the testers are always holding up the release. They wouldn't come back. So tell it don't start the server. And this is actually doing some great testing. Like it's actually mocking responses and things like that. Like this is pretty impressive, sweet. So if I were running a live session, which I'm not, so I don't know, maybe I can do this. Okay, yeah. So look, you can always just kind of, these are called tool calls. And the tool calls are basically the agent talking to your MCP server or talking to your file system or something like that. It's essentially make it a function call, right? And so for example, this one is just saying like run CD or something like that. But this gives you a lot of information on what's going on. So I can look at the tool details and then I can see exactly what the agent is doing. And then I can also see the output. So sometimes when it's stuck, I just kind of expand this and I say, what's it trying to do? I told you not to run the server, right? You were trying to run the server and now you got yourself stuck in La La Land somewhere. So if you want to know, look at that tool call and see if you're even getting any output. Notice here also, as I was developing mine, I was getting a 404 error. Instead of me trying to figure this out, I just tell Goose, look, and I pasted the errors that I was getting, and I said, can you figure it out? And it can go ahead and debug, it can try things, and even fix the issues for you. So it's really helpful with that sort of thing. Any questions on vibe coding, on Goose, on agents? Yes.
Is there a way to go back to your previous work, as in, I worked on a project for 7 days?
Yeah. So here's my history. I'm going to show y'all all my business. Here's my history. Most of it is me working on this workshop. And I can go back to any of those. And when I go back to it, there's a share. Actually, I don't think you have this. This is internal. But there's also a resume. So you can resume an old session and pick up where you left off. And sometimes that resume might even be just to grab the summary so you can go to a new chat. So you can do that too.
Okay. No, as in like, let's say I did something, right? And then maybe my architect made me coffee, right?
Yeah.
So I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Whatever you did in the last 1 hour, it's wrong. You know, start,
So this is what I would do. You get really creative with this stuff, right? What I do is I have that Goose docs, MCP. That's my favorite MCP when I work with Goose, because then it knows stuff about itself. So what I'll say is go find your log files. Something happened. Go look through those log files and determine where we went wrong. And it can then go and say, oh, let me look at the docs. Log files live there. AI is great at that. Let me summarize all these log files. Oh, yeah, I see. The architect made this goof up. Got it. Fixing it. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I heard is like maybe a benefit to vibe coding is being able to explore optimal libraries for like a given use case. I'm curious about what your experience with that is.
I love using vibe coding for prototypes, right? Which is basically what this is. And what I found is that it helps me to not become like so committed to a solution, right? If I develop something and it takes me 3 months, you better love it. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears. But if it took me 15 minutes, I don't care if you don't like it. We say, okay, great. Yeah, this is not a good fit, or that's not the right library for the job, or whatever. Toss it out, make a new session, start over again. So I love it for that reason. We started using it a lot internally, even people who are not in engineering. And so they'll create a prototype of their ideas because that's so much faster than me writing like a strategy or a design doc, have everybody pick apart the words that I'm saying versus me just showing you. Here's a prototype. I deployed this little toy app, play with it, and then let's have a conversation. Yeah, yes. No. You would need to say the word sub-agent or something like that. Or even if you said parallel, hey, I want to run these 3 tasks in parallel, it'll know, okay, I better spin up agents. But you would have to give some sort of contextual clue that that's what you want to happen. Yeah. All right. How did you get tests? I want to look at the tests because I don't want you to leave here and think that you are off the hook. So here's the complete summary from the tester. So the tester says, okay, I'm done. It told me all of the tests that it created. And here were the test results. 20 tests passed out of 20. It took 1 minute to run the test. And it did some coverage metrics. So what does this look like? About 92% of the functions covered, 76% of the branch or whatever. You could always increase coverage if you want it. And then it broke it down on like the suite and what it tested, which is great. But more importantly, it says, okay, here are the critical issues that I identified. Security, you have a risk of command injection, right? You don't have authentication. There's no rate limit in here. Like you're using an LLM under the covers, you know? It's saying I have some memory leaks. some inefficient parsing. Like, this would kill me if I put this like out in the wild. So now I have all of this information. It's saying you're not going to be able to scale it. The overall risk is high. I do not recommend that you release this to production without addressing the critical issues. So I love that it brought me back down to reality. I feel good with my prototype, but I realized that it's just that, a prototype, and that I need to do some more engineering to get this production ready. All right? So that is it. That's the workshop. Any questions I can answer for you? All right. I hope you all had a great time. If you think of anything, you can always reach out to me. I'm Angie Jones on all of the platforms. LinkedIn is probably where I am the most. But also we have a Discord server for Goose that's very lively and active. So if you want to see some of the other cool things that people are doing with Goose, I do invite you to join us there. Thank you so much.